Kang Daiho sat in the lowest section of the massive crystal chamber. Around him, beings from across the galaxy talked in loud voices about important matters. He kept his face calm, but inside he felt angry. For 50 years, Earth had been part of the Galactic Council. For 50 years they had been treated like children. The chamber was beautiful. It was made from clear blue crystal that came from the planet Viridian Prime. Light came through the walls and made rainbow patterns on the floor. Thousands of different aliens sat in rows that went up like stairs. The most important ones sat at the top. The least important ones sat at the bottom. Humans always sat at the bottom. "The next matter," said High Counselor Zexthul, his voice echoing through the chamber, "is the assignment of new patrol sectors." The ancient being looked like a giant tree made of metal and light. He had been leading the council for over 1,000 years. Kang Daiho watched as the major powers got the good assignments. The Nexari Empire got the rich trading routes near the Galactic Center. They were tall, thin beings made of living crystal. They thought they were better than everyone else because their technology was so advanced. The Luminals got the energy-rich nebula regions. They were beings made of pure light who could travel through space without ships. They moved like dancing flames and spoke in musical tones. The collective got the heavily populated outer worlds. They were a hive mind. Millions of insect-like creatures who all thought as one. Their ships looked like giant metal honeycombs. Then it was Earth's turn. "The human delegation," Zexthul said, and Kang Daiho could hear the boredom in his voice, "will survey sectors 7,745 through 7,892 in the outer rim." Ambassador Veltharion of the Nexari laughed. It sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "More empty. Space for the mammals to play in," she said. Her crystal body flashed with purple light. "Perhaps they will find some rocks to mine with their primitive tools." Other aliens joined in the laughter. Kang Daiho felt his hands tighten into fists, but he kept his face calm. He had practiced this for many years. "We accept the assignment," he said simply. "Of course you do," Veltharion said. "What choice do primitive chemical rocket users have?" More laughter filled the chamber. Kang Daiho stood up slowly. He was a small man with graying hair, but he had learned to carry himself with dignity even when others mocked him. "We will begin surveys immediately," he said. "See that you do," Zexthul said, already looking at other papers. "Next matter. The Nexari request for expanded territory in..." Kang Daiho walked out of the chamber. His aide, Park Minji, followed him. She was younger than him, with sharp eyes and black hair tied back in a simple style. She waited until they were alone in the corridor before speaking. "The same empty sectors again," she said quietly. "Perfect," Kang Daiho replied. Park Minji smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret. They walked through the crystal corridors of the council building. Other aliens moved past them without looking. To most of the galaxy, humans were barely worth noticing. They were new, primitive, and weak. Their ships were slow. Their weapons were simple. Their population was small. At least that was what everyone believed. Kang Daiho and Park Minji reached their small ship. It was called the Peaceful Dawn, and it looked exactly like what the galaxy expected from humans. Simple metal hull, chemical, rockets for power, basic sensors and weapons. Once they were inside and the doors were closed, everything changed. "Signal the real fleet," Park Minji said to the communications officer. "Yes, Commander," the officer replied. He pressed buttons on panels that looked simple from outside but were actually very advanced. "Ghost Fleet, this is Control. Council assignment received. Begin positioning in sectors 7,745 through 7,892. "Acknowledged," came the reply. "All units, moving to positions." Kang Daiho sat in his chair and allowed himself a small smile. The empty sectors they had been assigned were exactly where Earth wanted to be. They had been building there for decades. Hidden bases, weapon platforms, and shipyards that no one in the galaxy suspected existed. "How long until the next phase?" he asked. Park Minji checked her hidden screens. "Intelligence says the deep sensors are picking up something big moving in from the rim. Could be days, could be weeks. After 10,000 years, they're coming back, Kang Deho said quietly. They both knew the history. Deep in the old archives, in records that most aliens ignored, were stories of a great threat. Something had come from outside the galaxy long ago. It had destroyed entire civilizations before suddenly disappearing. Most modern aliens thought the stories were myths. Humans had studied every word. "Sir," the communications officer said, "we're getting a priority message from Earth Command." "Put it through," Park Minji ordered. The message was short and in code that sounded like normal shipping information. But Kang Deho and Park Minji understood the real meaning. The deep space sensors had detected massive energy signatures approaching the galaxy. The signatures matched the ancient descriptions perfectly. They were coming. "Send the ready signal to all units," Kang Deho said. "Tell them to prepare for Phase 1. Park Minji nodded and began typing on her console. Across dozens of star systems, hidden human bases received the message. Ships that had been hiding for years began to move into position. Weapons that no alien had ever seen were powered up and aimed at empty space. But they would not be aimed at empty space for much longer. The peaceful dawn left Viridian Prime and headed toward their assigned sectors. To any alien watching, it looked like another boring human mission to survey worthless space. None of them knew that worthless space was about to become the most important battleground in galactic history. As they traveled, Kang Deho thought about the meeting he had attended earlier. Veltharion and the other ambassadors had laughed at humans for using primitive chemical rockets. They thought human technology was simple and weak. They were right about one thing. Human rockets did use chemical fuel, but what they did not know was what those rockets could carry. Nuclear warheads that could crack planets. Weapon systems reverse-engineered from ancient artifacts. Ships that could appear and disappear like ghosts. The galaxy thought humans were harmless, because humans wanted them to think that. For 50 years, Earth had played the role of the weak junior member. They had taken insults and bad assignments without complaint. They had let other races treat them like children. All while preparing for the day when the real threat returned. "Commander," the sensor officer called out, "we're detecting some unusual readings from the rim sectors." "What kind of readings?" Park Minji asked. "Energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. Multiple contacts, very large, moving in formation." Kang Deho and Park Minji looked at each other. It was starting. "Send a coded message to Council Headquarters," Kang Deho ordered. "Tell them we're detecting unusual energy readings in our patrol sectors. Make it sound routine." "Yes, sir." The message was sent using normal diplomatic channels. To anyone listening, it would sound like humans had found something minor and were reporting it properly. The Council would probably ignore it or file it away for later review. But hidden in the message was a code that would alert Earth's real intelligence network. Within hours, every human agent and hidden base in the galaxy would know. The Devourers. "We're coming back." Kang Deho looked out at the stars streaming past their ship. Somewhere out there, ancient machines were approaching. Machines that had once destroyed civilizations far more advanced than anything the current galaxy possessed. The Nixari with their crystal technology, the Luminals with their energy manipulation, the Collective with their hive mind intelligence. All of them were about to face something they could not understand or defeat. But humans understood. Humans had been preparing. "Sir," Park Minji said, quietly, "do you really think we can win?" Kang Deho was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice steady and calm. "We don't have to win, Commander. We just have to make sure they don't lose. The galaxy has forgotten what real war looks like. They've been fighting civilized conflicts with rules and honor for so long, they don't remember how to fight for survival." He turned to look at her and his eyes were hard as steel. "But humans remember. We've never forgotten. And when the time comes, we'll remind the galaxy what it means to be harmless." Outside the ship, space was dark and peaceful. Stars shone like diamonds scattered across black cloth. It was beautiful and calm. But at the edge of the galaxy, in the deep dark between stars, something ancient was stirring. Something that had slept for 10,000 years was waking up. And it was hungry. The peaceful dawn continued toward its assigned sectors, carrying two humans who knew that everything was about to change. Behind them, the crystal towers of Viridian Prime sparkled in the light of distant suns, filled with aliens who thought they ruled the galaxy. Soon, they would learn the difference between ruling and surviving. And they would learn that sometimes, the most dangerous beings in the universe are the ones that everyone thinks are harmless. The first attack came without warning. Lee Junho was studying ancient texts in his underground laboratory on Earth when the emergency signal started flashing. He was a thin man with tired eyes who had spent 20 years reading old alien records that most people thought were useless myths. Today, those myths were becoming reality. Sir, his assistant called out. Priority alert from Deep Space Station 7. Lee Junho ran to the communication center. On the screen, he saw chaos. The collective colony world of Theta 9 had gone completely silent. One moment, their hive. Ships were sending normal status reports. The next moment, nothing. Get me a connection to the Galactic Council, he ordered. Trying, sir, but all council channels are busy. Reports are coming in from multiple sectors. Lee Junho felt cold fear in his stomach. He had read the old records. He knew what was happening. The Devourers had returned. On Viridian Prime, the council chamber was filled with panic. Aliens who usually spoke in calm, dignified voices were shouting and demanding answers. High Counselor Zexthul tried to keep order, but even his ancient authority seemed weak against the growing fear. 7 collective worlds have gone dark in the past hour, reported Admiral Kethvar of the Nexari Navy. His crystal body was flashing angry red colors. Our scout ships found nothing but empty space where thriving colonies should be. That's impossible, said Speaker Lumara of the Luminals. Her light body flickered with confusion. Entire planets cannot simply disappear. They haven't disappeared, said a new voice. Everyone turned to look. Kim Sora, head of Earth's Xenoarchaeology Division, was walking down the steps toward the center of the chamber. She was a young woman with short black hair and serious eyes. She carried a datapad and looked very calm compared to the panicking aliens around her. The human delegation was not scheduled to speak, Zexthul said with annoyance. The human delegation has information the council needs, Kim Sora replied simply. She activated her datapad, and holographic images appeared in the air above the chamber. The images showed ancient symbols, star charts, and what looked like pieces of destroyed machines. For 30 years, Earth's archaeological teams have been studying artifacts in the Outer Rim sectors, she said. Artifacts that most council races ignored because they were in worthless space. Ambassador Veltharian laughed, but it sounded forced. More human mythology. What could primitive mammals possibly know about the Devourers? Kim Sora said, cutting her off. The chamber became very quiet. 10,000 years ago, automated machines came from outside the galaxy, Kim Sora continued. They consumed entire star systems, converting matter into computational substrate and building materials. They destroyed the Eternal Empire, the Crystal, dynasties, and the First Collective. Then they vanished. Old myths, Veltharian said, but her voice was not as confident as before. Not myths, history. Kim Sora changed the holographic display to show star charts. Every attack followed the same pattern. First, communication blackouts. Then, total consumption of planetary mass. The machines could adapt to any defense, learning and evolving with each encounter. Admiral Kethvar leaned forward. You're saying these machines are what attacked our colonies? I'm saying these machines never left. They retreated to dark space between galaxies to build and prepare. Now they're back, and they're stronger than before. A new alarm started sounding. A Nexari officer rushed into the chamber and whispered something to Admiral Kethvar. The Admiral's crystal body turned pale white. What is it? Zexthul demanded. Long-range sensors have detected massive objects approaching from the Galactic Rim, Admiral Kethvar said slowly. Thousands of them, each one the size of a small moon. The chamber erupted in frightened voices. But Kim Sora remained calm. How long until they reach the core world? She asked. At current speed, 6 days. Then we don't have much time. On Earth, Park Minji stood in a hidden command center buried deep beneath the Korean mountains. The room was filled with screens showing star maps, fleet positions, and weapon status reports. Officers moved quietly between workstations, their faces serious and focused. Ghost Fleet reports all units in position, reported Captain Han Yoo-jin. Orbital. Platforms are online, added Major Choi Soyeon. Deep strike teams are ready for deployment, said Colonel Nam Ji-woo. Park Minji nodded. Everything they had built over 50 years was finally being revealed. Hidden shipyards had produced thousands of vessels. Secret research facilities had developed weapons specifically designed to fight self-adapting machines. Training centers had prepared soldiers for a war most of the galaxy still thought was impossible. Signal from Diplomatic Corps, Han Yoo-jin announced. The Council is requesting emergency military support from all member worlds. What's our official response? Asked Major Choi. We offer our small patrol fleet as expected, Park Minji replied. 12 ships, basic weapons, eager to help but probably not very useful. The officers smiled grimly. The galaxy was about to discover how wrong they were. Unofficial response, Colonel Nam asked. Begin Phase 2. Decloak the advanced scouts. Let them see what we've really been building. Back in the council chamber, reports kept coming in. More worlds had gone silent. The luminal energy beings had tried to make contact with the approaching machines, but their telepathic messages had simply disappeared into darkness. Our most advanced defensive fleets are moving to intercept, Admiral Kethvar reported. The Nexari Third Armada, the Luminal Energy Corps, and the Collective Battle Swarm. Surely combined they can't, Kim Sora said quietly. How can you be so certain? Veltharion demanded. Because we've tried. The chamber fell silent again. Kim Sora touched her datapad and new images appeared. They showed human ships engaged in battle with strange, dark machines. The battles looked fierce and desperate. For 20 years, Earth's deep space fleet has been hunting devourer remnants. In dead space, Kim Sora explained. Small groups that were left behind during their last retreat. We've fought them, studied them, learned how they think and adapt. Impossible, Veltharion said. Humans don't have deep space fleets. You have a few dozen chemical rocket ships at most. Kim Sora smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. Would you like to see our real fleet? Before anyone could answer, new alarms started ringing. A collective drone rushed in with urgent reports. Contact, contact. The drone buzzed in its mechanical voice. Combined fleet has engaged unknown hostiles at the Kepler boundary. Admiral Kethvar is requested immediately. The admiral stood quickly, his crystal body flashing with military colors. I must go. The fleet needs. His words were cut off as a massive explosion lit up the chamber. Outside the crystal walls, the sky was filled with fire. A Nexari warship was falling toward the planet, its hull torn apart and bleeding atmosphere. Impossible, Veltharion whispered. The Nexari Third Armada is the most powerful force in the galaxy. How could another explosion, then another? Through the crystal walls, they could see more ships falling from orbit. Ships that should have been light years away, protecting the outer boundaries. The fleet has been destroyed, Kim Sora said, simply. All of them, just like 10,000 years ago. High Counselor Zexthal's ancient form was shaking. What? What do we do? Kim Sora looked around the chamber at all the frightened alien faces. These beings had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They had technology that could reshape planets and manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. But none of them had ever faced an enemy that could not be reasoned with, bargained with, or defeated through traditional means. You ask Earth for help, she said. Earth? Veltharion's voice was full of disbelief. What can your primitive world possibly do that our advanced civilizations cannot? Kim Sora's smile became wider and much less friendly. We can win. At that moment, space around Viridian Prime began to shimmer. What looked like empty darkness suddenly filled with ships, hundreds of them, then thousands. They appeared out of nowhere, their hulls black as space itself, weapons pointing at threats that had not yet arrived. The ships looked nothing like the simple chemical rockets the galaxy had seen from Earth. They were sleek and deadly, covered in armor that seemed to absorb light. Energy readings coming from them made the Nexari sensors scream warnings about power levels that should have been impossible. What? What are those? Admiral Kethvar whispered. Those, Kim Sora said, are what humans build when we're not pretending to be harmless. On the bridge of the lead ship, Admiral Choi Woo-sung looked at the ancient machines approaching from deep space. His ship's sensors showed him details that would have terrified most beings. Each devourer construct was the size of a small moon, covered in weapons that could destroy planets. There were thousands of them, moving in perfect formation, adapting, and evolving with each passing moment. All units, this is Ghost Fleet Command, he said into his communicator. The galaxy is about to learn why Earth was never harmless. We were just waiting for the right enemy. Behind him, his bridge crew worked quietly and efficiently. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. They knew the enemy. They knew the cost. And they knew what had to be done. Signal from the Devourer fleet, reported his communications officer. Let's hear it. The signal was not words or images. It was pure mathematics. Cold equations that described the consumption of matter. Admiral Choi Woo-sung stood on the bridge of the ESS Retribution, watching as space around him filled with impossible things. Ships that had been invisible moments before were now revealing themselves to the galaxy. Thousands of human vessels, each one larger and more advanced than anything the Council had ever seen from Earth. All Ghost Fleet units report status, he commanded. 7th Fleet in position at coordinates Alpha 7. Came the first response. 12th Fleet ready at Beta 9. 19th Fleet standing by at Gamma 4. The reports kept coming. Fleet after fleet, squadron after squadron. Ships that the galaxy had never known existed, appearing out of empty space like metal ghosts becoming solid dot. On Viridian Prime, the Council chamber was completely silent. Every alien was staring at the holographic displays showing the massive, human fleet surrounding their world. Ambassador Veltharian's crystal body had turned completely white with shock. This is impossible, she whispered. Earth has perhaps 50 ships total. We've monitored your construction facilities. We've tracked your resource allocation. You cannot have built this. Kim Sora looked up at the stunned ambassador. You monitored the facilities we wanted you to monitor. You tracked the resources. We let you see. For 50 years, Earth has been playing a role. High Counselor Zexthol's ancient voice shook as he spoke. What are you saying? I'm saying that humanity has never been harmless, Kim Sora replied calmly. We've been preparing for this day since we first learned about the Devourers. Every insult, every dismissal, every assignment to worthless space was exactly what we wanted. She activated her datapad again, and new images filled the chamber. Hidden asteroid shipyards, massive orbital construction platforms, underground, facilities on hundreds of worlds that the Council had thought were uninhabited. While you were building prettier crystal spires and more efficient energy collectors, we were building weapons. While you were perfecting art and philosophy, we were studying war. While you were competing for trade routes and political influence, we were preparing for extinction. Admiral Kethavar finally found his voice. The technology, those ships, and how could humans develop such advanced systems without our knowledge? Because we had help, Kim Sora said, and her smile became cold. 20 years ago, our deep space, scouts found something in the void between galaxies. Damaged Devourer constructs from their last retreat, dead machines filled with the most advanced technology the universe has ever seen. You've been using Devourer technology? Speaker Lumara gasped. We've been improving it. The holographic display changed to show human research facilities. Scientists and engineers working with bizarre mechanical components. Weapons that seemed to bend space itself. ships that could phase in and out of reality. The Devourers are machines, Kim Sora explained. They think like machines, they adapt like machines, they fight like machines, but they've never fought beings who understand them completely. Captain Jin Kyu-hyun watched from the bridge of humanity's newest dreadnought, the ESS Indomitable. The ship was 10 kilometers long and covered in weapons that drew their power from artificial black holes. It had been built in complete secrecy in a hidden shipyard at the edge of known space. "Captain," his weapons officer called out, "the Devourer Vanguard is approaching the outer defense line." "How many?" Jin Kyu-hyun asked. 2,000 constructs, sir, each one the size of our largest battleships. "And our forces?" 3,000. Ships across all fleets. The Ghost Fleet is ready to engage. Jin Kyu-hyun nodded. The odds were not good, but they were better than anything the galaxy had faced in 10,000 years. More importantly, humanity had something the ancient civilizations had never possessed: complete knowledge of the enemy. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Engage Devourer Protocol 7. Full power to adaptive shields. Activate quantum scramblers. Prepare phase cannon arrays." The human fleet moved into combat formation with precision that impressed even their own commanders. Every ship knew its role. Every weapon system had been designed specifically to counter Devourer capabilities. 50 years of preparation was about to be tested. The first Devourer construct appeared on long-range sensors. It was a dark pyramid, the size of a mountain, covered in weapons that could tear apart moons. Energy readings showed it was already adapting to human sensor frequencies, learning about their technology with each passing second. "Target acquired," reported the weapons officer. "Fire!" Jin Kyu-hyun commanded. The Indomitable's main weapon unleashed a beam of concentrated gravity that could crush planets. The energy beam struck the Devourer construct directly in its center and did nothing. "No effect, sir. Target has adapted to our gravitational weapons." Jin Kyu-hyun smiled. "Perfect. Switch to thermal lances." The second salvo was pure heat energy, hot enough to vaporize steel instantly. Again, it struck the Devourer construct, and again, did nothing. No effect. Target adapting to thermal weapons. Excellent. Now switch to the real weapon. The third attack was completely different. Instead of energy or force, it was information. A computer virus disguised as harmless sensor data, transmitted directly into the Devourer's adaptive systems. The virus was based on Devourer code itself, but modified with human creativity and unpredictability. The massive construct suddenly stopped moving. Its weapons powered down. Its shields flickered and died. "Direct hit," the weapons officer reported, with satisfaction. "Target neutralized." "One down," Jin Kyu-hyun said. 1,999 to go. Back in the council chamber, the aliens watched in amazement as human ships began engaging Devourer constructs. The battles were unlike anything they had ever seen. Human tactics seemed to make no sense at first. Ships would attack with weapons that obviously could not work, then suddenly switch to completely different approaches. "They're letting the machines adapt to false weapons," Kim Sora explained. "Each Devourer that adapts to our decoy systems becomes vulnerable to our real weapons. It's a strategy that only works if you understand exactly how their learning algorithms function." Admiral Kethvar stared at the tactical displays. "How long have you been planning this?" "Since first contact with the galaxy," Kim Sora replied. "When Earth learned about the Devourer myths, we knew they would return eventually. We've spent 50 years preparing for this exact scenario." "But the deception," Veltharian's voice was weak with shock. "The insults we gave you, the way we treated humans, were exactly what we wanted," Kim Sora said firmly. "If you had known our real capabilities, you would have demanded to share our technology. You would have wanted to study our weapons, understand our strategies. That would have ruined everything." "Why?" High Counselor Zexthul asked. "Because the Devourers would have learned about our capabilities too. They monitor galactic communications. They study every new technology. If we had revealed our true strength, they would have adapted to counter it before they ever arrived." The old counselor was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked, What do you need from us? Nothing, Kim Sorai said simply. Your fleets cannot fight devourers effectively. Your weapons will only teach them how to defend against similar attacks. The best thing you can do is stay out of our way and let us work. It was perhaps the most insulting thing that had ever been said in the council chamber, but none of the aliens protested. They were watching their most advanced civilization's weapons fail completely, while human ships fought battles they could barely understand. On the bridge of the ESS Retribution, Admiral Choi Woo-sung watched the tactical situation develop. The first wave of devourer constructs was falling back, their adaptive systems confused by human weapons they could not categorize or counter. Sir, his communications officer called out, we're receiving a signal from the devourer main fleet. Let's hear it. The signal was different from the first one. Instead of cold mathematics, it carried something that sounded almost like curiosity. The devourers were trying to understand what they were facing. They're confused, Choi Woo-sung said with satisfaction. They've never encountered opponents who understand them better than they understand themselves. Orders, sir? Asked his tactical officer. Signal the fleet. Begin Phase 2. Decloak the heavy assault platforms. It's time to show them what humans build when we're really angry. New shapes began appearing in space. Massive platforms that had been hidden in asteroid fields and gas clouds for decades. Weapons capable of destroying entire star systems. Manufacturing facilities that could build new ships in hours instead of years. Yoon Hana, director of Earth's Advanced Weapons Division, smiled as she watched from her hidden command center. The platforms she had designed were finally being revealed. Each one represented years of work, using technology reverse-engineered from devourer remains and improved with human engineering. Hanbit, are you ready? She asked. I am ready, Director. Yoon, replied the artificial intelligence that controlled Earth's strategic systems. Hanbit had been designed using devourer computational architectures, but programmed with human creativity and unpredictability. Begin deep analysis of enemy patterns. I want to know what they're thinking before they think it. Analysis in progress. Initial assessment. Devourer forces are experiencing systemic confusion. Their adaptive algorithms cannot process human, tactical approaches. Estimated time before adaptation, unknown. Unknown is... Park Ji-hoon stood in the main war room deep beneath Earth's surface, surrounded by screens showing battles across half the galaxy. He was a tall man with gray hair and scars on his face from conflicts most aliens had never heard of. For 30 years, he had been Earth's supreme military commander. For 30 years, he had been preparing for this war. Status report, he commanded. 7th Fleet has successfully defended the Arcturan system, reported Colonel Song Mina. Losses, 30%. Enemy losses, complete destruction of attacking force. 12th Fleet engaged devourer constructs at the Vega cluster, added Major Kim Dong-min. Enemy adaptation rate exceeded projections. Fleet pulled back after suffering 60% casualties. 19th Fleet. Major Lim Seo-hyun paused, his face grim. No contact for 4 hours, sir. Presumed lost with all hands. Park Ji-hoon absorbed the reports without emotion. This was what real war looked like. Not the clean political conflicts the galaxy was used to, where casualties were minimal and honor mattered more than victory. This was survival warfare, where entire fleets could disappear and the only question that mattered was whether enough humans would survive to see tomorrow. Reinforcement status? He asked. Industrial platforms are working at maximum capacity, reported Dr. Song Yoonji, head of Earth's Rapid Manufacturing Division. We're producing new ships faster than we're losing them, but barely. New weapon systems? The adaptive virus programs are working better than expected, Dr. Song continued. But the devourers are learning to recognize and counter them. Estimated effectiveness window, 72 hours before they adapt completely. Park Ji-hoon nodded. 72 hours was longer than he had hoped for. In this war, any advantage measured in hours was precious. What about the alien fleets? He asked. Colonel Song Mina's expression darkened. The Nexari attempted to engage Devourer forces at the Crystal Nebula. Their entire battle group was consumed in 14 minutes. The Luminals tried to use their energy manipulation abilities against a Devourer construct near Rigel. The construct absorbed their energy attacks and used them to power its own weapon systems. And the collective? They're refusing to engage. Their hive mind intelligence has concluded that fighting the Devourers is inefficient resource allocation. Park Ji-hoon almost smiled. The galaxy's greatest military powers had been reduced to hiding behind human ships, letting the primitive species do the actual fighting. "Sir," called out Intelligence Officer Lee Junho, "we're getting priority signals from multiple council worlds. They're requesting immediate military assistance." "What kind of assistance?" "Everything. Ships, weapons, tactical support, and..." Lee Junho hesitated. "Command authority." The war room fell silent. After 50 years of treating humans like children, the galaxy was asking Earth to take control of their military forces. "What's our response?" asked Colonel Song. Park Ji-hoon was quiet for a moment, studying the tactical displays. Human fleets were scattered across dozens of star systems, fighting desperate battles against an enemy that grew stronger with each encounter. Earth's resources were being stretched to their limits. But the alternative was the complete destruction of galactic civilization. "Send the response," he said finally. "Earth accepts operational command of all galactic defense forces. All alien military units will follow human tactical doctrine. No exceptions." "Sir," Major Kim said carefully, "some of the alien commanders might not accept human authority." "Then they'll die alone," Park Ji-hoon replied coldly. "This isn't a negotiation. It's survival." On the bridge of the ESS Vengeance, Captain Yu Sungmin watched as his mixed fleet prepared for the largest battle of the war so far. Human ships flew alongside Nexari crystal vessels and luminal energy constructs, all following tactical plans developed by human strategists. "Incoming transmission from the Nexari flagship," reported his communications officer. "Put it through." The holographic image of Admiral Kethvar appeared, his crystal body flashing with frustrated colors. "Captain Yu, I must protest this battle plan. Sending our ships directly into Devourer formation is suicide." "It would be suicide for normal tactics," Yu Sungmin replied calmly, "but we're not using normal tactics. Your plan makes no logical sense. We're attacking with weapons that cannot damage Devourer shields, using formations that leave us completely exposed to their fire." "That's the point, Admiral. The Devourers expect logical tactics. They adapt to sensible strategies. But they don't know how to handle pure insanity." Admiral Kethvar's crystal body flashed brighter. "You're risking the lives of thousands of crew members on insanity. I'm saving the lives of billions of civilians with insanity," Yu Sungmin corrected. "Sometimes the craziest plan is the only one that works." The mixed fleet moved into attack formation. To any observer, it looked like a disorganized mess. Ships, flying in seemingly random directions, weapons firing at empty space, shields fluctuating without pattern or purpose. But every apparently random action was carefully planned. Every chaotic movement was designed to confuse Devourer tactical systems. The human commanders were thinking 3 steps ahead, while making their actions look completely unpredictable. "Devourer constructs are responding," reported the tactical officer. They're not adapting to our attack patterns." "Because there are no patterns to adapt to," Yu Sungmin said with satisfaction. "Fire all weapons." The battle that followed would be studied by military historians for centuries. Human ships led chaotic charges that should have been suicide runs, but somehow broke through Devourer defenses. Alien vessels followed human tactics that violated every principle of logical warfare and achieved impossible victories. But the cost was enormous. "Captain," the communications officer called out, his voice shaking, "the Nexari flagship is gone. Direct hit from a Devourer beam weapon." "The luminal energy squadron is scattering," added the tactical officer. "They're taking heavy casualties." Yu Sungmin watched as brave alien crews died following human orders. Ships that had taken centuries to build were destroyed in seconds. Beings who had never known real war were learning its true cost. "All human ships, this is vengeance," he broadcast. "Cover the alien withdrawal, we finish this ourselves." "Sir," his weapons officer protested, "we can't take on 12 Devourer constructs alone." "We're not alone," Yu Sung-min replied. "We have something the galaxy has never seen before." He activated a special communication channel. "Hanbit, are you ready?" "I am ready, Captain," came the reply from Earth's strategic AI. "Uploading tactical virus to all human ships now." On screens across the human fleet, new targeting data appeared. But this wasn't normal tactical information. It was a computer virus designed by human programmers using Devourer code structures, hidden inside what looked like standard communication protocols. "All ships transmit targeting data to Devourer constructs," Yu Sung-min ordered. "Sir, that will give them complete information about our weapons and defenses," the communications officer protested. "Exactly." The data transmission went out carrying, with it, detailed specifications of every human weapon, shield system, and tactical program. To the Devourers, it looked like a massive intelligence gift. Complete knowledge of human military capabilities. What they didn't realize was that the data was actually a virus that would turn their own adaptive systems against them. Within minutes, Devourer constructs across the battlefield began showing system failures. Their weapons powered down. Their shields collapsed. Their adaptive algorithms trying to process the false human data crashed and burned. "All enemy constructs showing critical failures," reported the tactical officer with amazement. "That's what happens when you try to adapt to information that's designed to break your brain," Yu Sung-min said grimly. But even as they celebrated the victory, everyone knew it was temporary. The Devourers would eventually figure out what had happened and develop countermeasures. Each human victory bought time, but time was running out. In her laboratory on Earth, Dr. Song Yoonji worked frantically on the next generation of anti-Devourer weapons. Around her, teams of scientists and engineers pushed themselves to exhaustion, knowing that every hour of delay meant more deaths in space. "Status on the Quantum Disruptor project?" she asked her assistant. 60% complete, but we're having problems with the targeting system. The Devourers keep adapting faster than we can lock onto them." "What about the probability bombs?" "Too dangerous. The test models destroyed everything within a light-year radius, including our own ships." Song Yoonji rubbed her tired eyes. They were running out of options. For every new weapon they developed, the Devourers found a way to counter it. The machines were learning, evolving, becoming stronger with each encounter. "Doctor," her assistant said quietly, "maybe we should consider the final option." Song Yoonji was quiet for a long moment. The final option was a weapon so destructive that using it would mean accepting massive collateral damage. It could destroy entire star systems, killing billions of innocent beings along with the Devourers. "Not yet," she said finally. "We still have time. We still have hope." But deep in her heart, she knew that time was running out, and hope was becoming a luxury they could no longer afford. In space, the war continued. Human fleets fought desperate battles across 100 star systems. Brave crews gave their lives to buy time for evacuation ships carrying alien. The war had been going on for 6 months. Half the galaxy was dark now, consumed by Devourer constructs that grew stronger with each victory. Human fleets had fought bravely, but they were losing ground every day. The machines were adapting faster than anyone had thought possible. Lim Tae-hyung stood in the hangar bay of Earth's last great shipyard, looking at the ship that would either save the galaxy or destroy it. The ESS Final Hope was unlike anything ever built. It was part starship, part weapon, and part suicide device. "Final systems check complete," reported Chief Engineer Baek Yerin. She was a small woman, with oil-stained clothes and tired eyes, who had worked without sleep for 3 weeks to complete the ship. "Stellar manipulation devices online. Navigation systems are ready. Life support is minimal." "How minimal?" Lim Tae-hyung asked. "Enough air and food for the trip to the target, nothing for the trip back." Lim Tae-hyung nodded. He had known from the beginning that this would be a one-way mission. They all had. Sir, called out Lieutenant Park Ji-yeon, his navigation officer. We have the final target coordinates. The Devourer Prime construct is holding position at the edge of the Andromeda approach vector. Lim Tae-hyung studied the tactical data. The Devourer Prime was massive beyond imagination, a construct the size of Earth's moon surrounded by millions of smaller ships. It was the central intelligence that controlled the entire Devourer swarm. If they could destroy it, the war would end. But getting close enough to attack it would be impossible. The Prime was protected by defenses that had never been breached. Its adaptive shields could counter any known weapon. Its tactical algorithms could predict and defeat any assault, except the one humanity was planning. Status on the stellar manipulation device. Lim Tae-hyung asked. Bayek. Yeren checked her instruments. Ready for deployment. The target star is already showing signs of instability from our preliminary bombardment. When we activate the device, the star will go supernova within 60 seconds, and we need to be how close for it to work. Inside the Devourer Prime's defensive perimeter, less than 1,000 kilometers from the target. Lim Tae-hyung was quiet for a moment. 1,000 kilometers was point-blank range in space combat. They would have to fly directly into the heart of the most heavily defended position in the galaxy, survive long enough to activate a weapon that would destroy everything within 10 light-years, including themselves. It was the kind of plan that only humans would even consider attempting. Sir, Lieutenant Park said softly, the volunteer crews are requesting permission to board. Lim Tae-hyung turned to watch as the final crew members arrived. They came from every branch of Earth's military, pilots who had fought impossible battles, engineers who had built weapons from scrap metal and determination, scientists who had spent their lives studying ways to destroy machines that couldn't be destroyed. All volunteers. All knowing they would never come home. Captain Jin Min-hyuk, the ship's tactical officer, saluted as he approached. Sir, all crew members have completed their final personal recordings. Messages to families have been stored in the databank. How many volunteers did we get? Lim Tae-hyung asked. 2,000, sir, for 50 crew positions. Lim Tae-hyung felt his throat tighten. The entire human military had volunteered for a suicide mission. They all wanted the chance to end the war, even if it meant they would never see the victory. Sir, Baek Yeren called out. Incoming priority transmission from Earth Command. The holographic image of Park Ji-hoon appeared in the hangar. The Supreme Commander looked older than his years, worn down by months of desperate warfare. Captain E. Lim, he said formally. Do you understand your mission? Yes, sir. Penetrate Devourer Prime defenses. Deploy stellar manipulation device. End the war. And do you understand the cost? Yes, sir. Total loss of ship and crew. No possibility of survival or rescue. Park Ji-hoon was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice heavy with emotion. Captain, I want you to know that what you're doing today will be remembered forever. Not just by humans, but by every species in the galaxy. You're giving your lives so that billions of others can live. We understand, sir. Lim Tae-hyung replied. We're ready. Then may fortune favor the brave. Earth Command out. The transmission ended, leaving the hangar in silence. Lim Tae-hyung looked around at his crew, 50 of the best people humanity had ever produced, all willing to die for beings who had treated them as primitives for 50 years. All right, people, he said finally. Let's go save the galaxy. The final hope launched from Earth's hidden shipyard and headed for the edge of known space. Behind them, the last human fleets formed up to provide cover for their approach. Thousands of ships, crewed by people who knew they were watching their friends and family members fly to their deaths. On Viridian Prime, the Galactic Council watched the tactical displays in hushed silence. The crystal chamber that had once echoed with debates about trade routes and political boundaries now served as a command center for the final battle of galactic civilization. Kang Min-ho, now the senior human representative, stood before the assembled aliens. He was old now, his hair completely gray, his face marked by years of war and loss. He had survived when so many others had died, and the weight of that survival showed in his eyes. "The final hope is approaching the target," he announced. "All human fleets are moving to support positions." Ambassador Veltharian, her crystal body dim with grief, spoke quietly. "How many ships are we losing to make this possible?" "All of them," Kang Minho replied simply. The chamber fell silent. The aliens finally understood what they were witnessing. Humanity was sacrificing its entire military to give one ship a chance to reach the Devourer Prime. Thousands of crews were dying to save people who had never shown them respect or kindness. Why? High Counselor Zexthul asked, his ancient voice barely a whisper. Why would humans do this for us? Kang Minho looked at the old leader with tired eyes. Because it's the right thing to do. Because if we don't, everyone dies. Because that's what humans do when extinction comes calling. In space, the Final Hope fought its way through waves of devourer ships. Around them, human fleets engaged the enemy in hopeless battles, trading their lives for a few more kilometers of progress toward the target. 15 minutes to target, reported Lieutenant Park. Hull damage at 60%, added Engineer Beck Yeren. Shields are gone, weapons are offline, but the stellar device is still functional. Lim Taehyung watched as his ship flew deeper into the swarm of enemy constructs. Outside the viewports, space was filled with weapons fire and exploding ships. Human vessels rammed Devourer constructs when their weapons failed. Crews activated self-destruct charges to clear paths for the Final Hope to follow. 10 minutes to target. The ship shuddered as another hit penetrated their armor. Emergency lights flickered, and the air filled with smoke from burning electronics. 5 minutes to target. More explosions, more damage, more friends dying to buy them a few more seconds. 2 minutes to target. Devourer Prime is directly ahead. Through the smoke and fire, Lim Taehyung could see it. The Devourer Prime construct filled the entire viewport, a massive sphere of dark metal and pulsing energy, surrounded by defensive systems that could destroy planets. 1 minute to target. Activating stellar manipulation device. Beck Yeren's hands moved across her control panels with steady precision. The device that would turn a nearby star into a weapon powered up, drawing energy from the ship's dying reactor. 30 seconds to target. The Final Hope punched through the last layer of Devourer defenses, its hull glowing red-hot from weapons fire. Around them, the last human escort ships died in brilliant explosions, their crew's final gift a clear path to the target. 10 seconds. To target. Devices ready for activation. Lim Taehyung looked around at his crew one last time. They were all at their stations, calm and focused, despite knowing they had seconds to live. "It's been an honor serving with you all," he said. "The honor was ours, sir," Lieutenant Park replied for all of them. "Activate device," Lim Taehyung commanded. Bayek. Yeren pressed the final control. In space, 10 light-years away, a star that had burned steadily for billions of years suddenly convulsed. Its core collapsed, then exploded outward in a supernova that would be visible from the next galaxy. The explosion raced through space at the speed of light, carrying with it the focused energy of stellar death. When it reached the Devourer Prime construct, the massive machine had exactly 1 second to register the incoming destruction, before it was vaporized along with everything else in the system. The Final Hope and its crew died instantly, torn apart by forces beyond imagination. But their sacrifice ended the war in a single moment of unimaginable destruction. Across the galaxy, Devourer constructs suddenly stopped moving. Cut off from their controlling intelligence, the machines became confused and vulnerable. Within hours, the remaining human fleets and their alien allies were hunting down and destroying the leaderless swarms. The war was over. Years later, Kang Minho stood in the new council chamber on rebuilt Viridian Prime. He was very old now, one of the few humans who had lived through the entire war. Around him, representatives from across the galaxy listened as he spoke. "Today, we dedicate this memorial to the crews of the Final Hope and all the human fleets who gave their lives to save our civilization," he said, his voice